Michigan fans, there are all sorts of words, phrases, terms that you have been waiting forever to hear, like Michigan national championship game, Michigan college football playoff win. And how about that coming over the vaunted Alabama Crimson Tide and Nick Saban? What a night, what a spectacle, what a game. What an event and what a historic moment for Michigan athletics. And we will talk about the historic win and preview the game against Washington with all of you right here at the Voice of College Football. So we appreciate you stopping by. John D'Adamo, our illustrious host, feeling a bit under the weather. So we do appreciate John being here each and every Tuesday to talk Michigan football with all of you, 8 o'clock Eastern time. So this is something, if you're stumbling across this for maybe one of the first times, we do this every week, but it's typically John here hosting the show. So thank you so much for stopping by. We also have a Big Ten Live show, the Big Ten Live show, that is every Monday at 6 Eastern. That's over on the main channel. And you Michigan fans, we are never void of plenty of Michigan football content. Once we put together all of the Michigan content prior to the college football playoff game against Alabama, we were looking at something like 5+ hours of preview content. And so we have also posted just here in the last hour a bit of a commentary that I have concerning Michigan football. So check that out. That's on the main channel as well. This is Wolverines Live, edition number 126, and you are stuck with me for the next few minutes. All right, I will take your comments and questions on Michigan's win over Alabama and the upcoming matchup against soon-to-be Big Ten member Washington. How about that? So Big Ten fans, you can bask in the glow that knowing, regardless of who wins this game, that the defending national champion will reside in the Big Ten next season. How about that? But of course, you all wanted to be Michigan. 1997 was a long time ago, but 1997 is only one step away. And this would probably be even sweeter under the current structure of having to win 2 playoff games. And that one at the Rose Bowl on Monday night was a classic. That was a great football game. Was it a pretty football game? Was it a prolific offensive shootout? No, it was none of those things. But it was about what we all expected. I predicted a game in the low to mid 20s. There we go. 20-20 headed to overtime in Michigan, of course, courtesy Blake Corum, and that stout offensive line pushed Alabama into the end zone, and Blake Corum literally just kind of eluded everybody in sight and world and sprawled his way into the end zone for the game lead touchdown that proved to be the game winner once Michigan stood up defensively against that play of Jalen Milroe trying to pick his spot on that power run play up the middle on 4th and goal from the 3. Check out the video that we posted just a couple hours ago on the main channel with Stephen M. Smith of Touchdown Alabama, Michigan, if you want to hang on to any more remnants of that monumental win against Alabama, because we talked about the late game situation there, the play call. We talked everything Bama, but of course that all relates to Michigan, what happened at the Rose Bowl. And the Wolverines also win a first Rose Bowl while we're covering all the bases of college football playoff win, national championship game appearance, Rose Bowl win. Let's see. Lost to USC in 2003, lost to USC in 2006, defeated Washington State after the 97 season, the 98 Rose Bowl, en route to the national championship. I'm not thinking of another one since then. Actually, Michigan has only won one major bowl game since that national championship season of 1997. That was the 2011 Sugar Bowl against Virginia Tech. Am I missing anything? Let me know if I am. I don't believe I am. That would be one major bowl win since that national title team in 97, led by Brian Greasy, Charles Woodson, and others. All right. We have no guest tonight. I am going to go to your comments and questions, and I'll certainly I can go through any kind of soliloquy you would like on the game. And again, I did my best to do that just a few minutes ago and posting a video on the main channel so you can get my perspective from somewhat of a historical standpoint to begin, because there is a strong connection between Jim Harbaugh and Bo Schembechler. So I started there, also looked at where was this program 3 years ago and what was the mindset of the fan base. Many of you, don't be embarrassed, don't be ashamed. Your coach was not doing well right there. So it's not just utterly inconceivable and foolish for people, for fans to be fans and question the direction of the program, question the head coach at that point. But I found myself as being much a Jim Harbaugh apologist. So there is a litany of videos and comments to the channel that would back that up. So we talked somewhat about that, the state of the program, and Jim Harbaugh's approach to the program, looking at it 3 years ago. Just think about that. At the conclusion of 2020, right now, right this second in 2020, we were staring at an Alabama-Ohio State national championship game after the COVID season, after Michigan pulled out of the Ohio State game. Ohio State won the Big Ten again, went to the national championship game, had just beaten Clemson by 3 touchdowns. So you had a much different look at the Michigan program, the status of the program, the recruiting, the development of players, the coaching staff, the direction, the mood, the trajectory, especially because you cannot talk Michigan football and where the program stands without talking about Ohio State. And you can't talk about Ohio State without talking about Michigan. They are that closely linked, and that is the barometer. So if Ohio State had been struggling at the same time as Michigan, that wouldn't have been a good thing for Michigan fans, but it would have been much different. However, Ohio State was where it was and really hasn't left. And what's been remarkable about the Michigan ascension has been that Ohio State has not dropped off. I know many people would argue that it has, and if it has, it's been ever so slight. But what has been ever so remarkable and even more impressive, that Michigan has accomplished this without Ohio State falling. They have simply met Ohio State and surpassed Ohio State. So it's a remarkable accomplishment by Jim Harbaugh, his staff, the entire team, the entire program. And regardless of what you think about the NCAA investigation and what we know to be violations, and there could be more forthcoming, putting that to the side, just focusing on what type of distraction, what type of burden, what type of cloud that placed over the team. There is generally just 2 ways to respond to that: to either allow that to weigh you down, to distract you, to worry you, or to respond by saying, we're in this together. We are who we are. We believe in what we're doing. We believe in each other. We trust each other. And we're on a mission to prove people wrong. And we're on a mission to right not so much the wrongs of the last 2 years, but to build upon what was accomplished the last 2 years and seal the deal, close the deal, finish the mission, finish the pursuit of a national championship. And now Michigan has taken one enormous step toward doing that, and they've got one more to go. Comments and questions, folks. What do we got? As John is stating here, your Crimson Tide, probably speaking to an Alabama fan in the chat, played tough. It was a heavyweight matchup the whole way. And I, as a college football analyst, cannot get enough of What if that would have happened? What if that would have turned out a different way? What if, and I'm not talking about the game was 49-0, and what if the bus crashed and one of the teams didn't show up? No, I'm talking about a game like last night where we could go to, and the tendency is to go to the team that lost and figure out all the ways that they could have won the game. And that's easy to do. Alabama could have won this game 18 different ways. But had that happened, you could also look at all the ways in which Michigan could have more easily won the game, could have put the game away earlier, could have had a more resounding first half, could have been comfortably in the lead. Of course, right out of the gate, wow, what was running through your mind as a Michigan fan when J.J. McCarthy threw that interception? Because that, to me, there is good fortune and then there is luck. And the rules are the rules. So the rule was instituted correctly once the replay was reviewed. That was the correct call. So I have no issue with that. But it was generally luck that the Alabama player, Caleb Downs, was that far out of bounds, did not reestablish himself in bounds, intercepted the pass. So J.J. McCarthy got away with it. A really dumb mistake. I don't know what he was thinking. I don't know what his mindset was when they showed the play from behind the offense from J.J. McCarthy's vantage point. I didn't know whether he was throwing that ball away. And if he was very nonchalant and lackadaisical about it because he obviously didn't throw it away. You fire that thing a row deep into the crowd. You just fire it away. So I thought maybe he was trying to squeeze it into the Michigan wide receiver that was behind Downs, but that was just a dumb mistake, but he got away with it. So, and that was the correct call. Now, Samaje Morgan, of course, made the first big blunder of the game that counted when he muffed the punt, and that set up Alabama in perfect position. So that can go, depending on your vantage point and who you're rooting for, in the category of dumb mistake, shouldn't have happened. That was a gift of a touchdown. It's very similar to the mistake that Ohio State and Kyle McCord made on the first drive, second drive that they had the ball against Michigan, where Kyle McCord misread, mistimed, whatever the missed connection between he and Marvin Harrison Jr. And Will Johnson made an incredible break on the football. And so that was not just a gift, but that was an incredible athletic play, of course, by Will Johnson, that in a game that was kind of similar in some ways in regards to the level of offense, the productivity of the offenses, and the style of game. This Alabama game for Michigan was very close to the Ohio State game, where there was some offense. It wasn't a complete stalemate. It wasn't Iowa playing Iowa, but it was generally a defensive game. And so one play like that, bam, huge, enormous. And Michigan made it in Ann Arbor against Ohio State, but they had the miscue against Alabama. So they give up the quick touchdown, and it's 7-0. So Michigan, again, this has to play with your psyche to a certain extent. And I'm sure it did. Some players, maybe every player, thought, man, we lost the last two playoff games. We're playing Alabama. We're down 7-0. But they're resilient. They showed resolve. They got back at it, drove the ball down the field, put together the drive. Nice little play to Blake Corum to free him up from the backfield to get him free. And the Alabama defense lost him, and suddenly it's 7-7. And then Michigan, what was the storyline of the first half from a nuts and bolts standpoint was Michigan's overwhelming pass rush. It was just devastating. And I think there was a combination of Alabama not correctly making adjustments on the fly, not knowing their assignments, but it was just flat out Michigan's athletes were overwhelming for that Bama offensive line. I am going to credit Bama with this, because what's remarkable about this football program at Alabama is that, just think about this, that just might be the worst Alabama team that Nick Saban has ever coached since his second season. Think about that. It could be argued that that's Alabama's worst team. And they could very well be hoisting a trophy next Monday night if things would have broken a different way. That's how great that football program is. And that also underlines how great an accomplishment it is for Michigan to slay Alabama. But just think about that's, and I stated that when I made my prediction. And yes, I predicted Alabama to win. But I said it was, in my mind, a 55-45 game. It was very close to 50-50 in my eyes. And I had three basic reasons why I picked Alabama, but also stated, hey, if we just take these teams for who they are this year, Michigan has been by far the more consistently dominant team. There has only been 3 games in which Michigan was not dominant. Ohio State, of course, Maryland, and Penn State. And you could really only fault Michigan for playing beneath itself for one of those games, obviously that being the Maryland game. They should be able to blow out Maryland. Penn State, forget what you saw in the bowl game. They were missing 4 NFL first and second rounders on defense. And forget what you saw out of Ohio State against Missouri with the third string quarterback. Michigan was playing 2 of the top 5 to 10 teams in the country, and they won the games. So those are the only games other than Maryland that they struggled. They just blasted everybody else, just tore through them. You know, when Michigan played the Arkansas or Auburn of the Big Ten, they laid waste to them. If you want to compare Arkansas and Auburn to, let's say, Rutgers and Indiana or Illinois, well, Michigan didn't play Illinois, but they laid those teams to waste. Alabama messed around with them. So there were warning signs that this Alabama team was not up to the challenge, or I shouldn't say not up to the challenge. If you go to overtime, you're up to the challenge. Was not going to be able to pull it off like they have in previous seasons. Offensive line, no elite running back, no elite wide receiver, where there's typically multiple elite running backs, multiple elite wide receivers, and offensive line. And that's another interesting discussion that we had with our guy, Stephen M. Smith of Touchdown Alabama today, that you may want to check out if you're a college football fan. If you're just a Michigan fan, maybe not, but if you're just a college football fan, our conversation there, because there's a lot to question there with Alabama. Again, I don't think there's anything systemically wrong with the program. They're awesome. They're amazing. They're still arguably the best, the gold standard, the everything in college football. But maybe a few things with the coaching staff to address, and whether it's a few recruiting misses or possibly as Will is saying right here, their coaching staff is not as good. In fact, it's bad, but the talent is still there. Yeah, we talked about that. And Stephen M. Smith certainly cited some specific coaches on both sides of the ball and them not performing to the level of their predecessors. So it's a great conversation about Alabama, which, again, I got to still say that I'm just blown away at how good Saban is and how good that Alabama program is. If we were going to rank the Alabama teams since 2008, this team might be last. And to play that close to a national championship is crazy to me. But this day is about Michigan and Michigan's win, and Michigan outplayed Alabama, certainly in the first half. They were clearly the better team. Should have been up by 10 or 14 points. Second half, and you could consider it to be a warning sign, a concern going into the national championship game, or you could consider it to be something where Michigan showed a lot of resolve. It can be both at the same time, where the offense just the second half was not good. Ralph believes that with Tua Tagovailoa, this Bama team is 15-0. Maybe we'll never know. That could be correct. That could be completely wrong. We know that he's better. He's a better quarterback. But Jalen Milroe is really good. Anyway, where was I on? Oh, so my concern, whether it's you can look at the glass half full or half empty on the Michigan offensive performance in the second half, because on the half empty side, I don't know if they can afford that kind of dry spell against Washington. You know, from halftime and really before that, when did Michigan score its last points? I guess it was the second touchdown in which they threw the 38-yarder to Tyler Morris, which, man, did he show a burst. And we talked about guys last week that can sometimes emerge during bowl or postseason practice that weren't highly counted on. And maybe they don't come in and show up and catch 8 passes for 150 yards, but they make 1 or 2 key plays. And we talked about Tyler Morris, and bam, he makes a huge play. When you're only scoring 3 touchdowns in a game, and you got a guy like that comes in and scores 1 and turned that corner on the Alabama secondary and showed a burst, that was impressive. But from the time that touchdown was scored all the way to 2 minutes left in the game, we heard nothing from the Michigan offense. I looked at it at one point in the second half late in the game, and they only had about 45 yards of total offense before the final drive. But glass half full is that they were able to kick it in on the 4th and 2. And that is the play that won the game. That is the play that got them jump started. And they were a different offense after converting 4th and 2. They were just a different offense. That catch that Roman Wilson made and the throw that J.J. McCarthy made, and a game of inches again, or millimeters, because Deontay Lawson leaped up and he deflected that ball, but J.J. McCarthy had a tight enough spiral and had enough velocity on it that it barely changed the trajectory or the spin on the football. And Roman Wilson made a great play. The 2 Bama secondary guys were kind of confused. It looked, in a sense, like that Vikings Saints play in the playoffs from about 5 years ago. And yeah, great play. I got to go back and look at the final play of the game. I am hearing a few different interpretations of what happened. And that's another place where our guy, Stephen M. Smith, made a really excellent determination of an explanation of the way that play was supposed to work and what Jalen Milroe was supposed to read. And also, Michigan fans, be happy and be pleased that Alabama had snapping issues, could not snap the football. Who knows how much different things would have turned out, because one drive was completely killed. Alabama had gained 2 or 3 first downs, and then they lost 19 yards on 2 bad snaps. But it was not just that. That did kill a drive that was coming along pretty well. But that was all night. And I don't know what that does to a quarterback. I think that that does a lot to a quarterback. It changes the timing of the play, forces him. It's bad enough. You're staring maybe the best defense in the country. You're staring at the best defense in the country, one of them, and you've got all these things that you've got to process. And then you got to field a ground ball at your feet over and over. And you got to take your eyes off the defense. It disrupts the timing of the play. It delays it a second or two. And that's just something to deal with that you would not think. And it's certainly not Michigan's fault. You got to have your act together and you got to be able to snap the football. But that was big. That was big. The Vic says that Michigan is the best defense in the country. I'm not going to debate that. Very well could be. I think that there are about 4 defenses that have a claim. 5. I would say that I'm going to back off on Iowa. I would have loved to have seen Iowa play a really good offense at some point. And this bowl game performance, I knew that there were some Iowa players missing from that game on the defensive side. They did not have Cooper DeJean, of course, one of the best defensive players in the country late in the season. I would tend to go, gun to my head, I'm going Michigan, number 1. But I think Penn State's right there. I think Ohio State's right there. I think Alabama and Georgia are right there. Big shocker there. I think those are the 5 best defenses in the country. Can't think of another defense that I would put with those 5. Missouri's got a really good defense. Clemson's got a good defense. Yeah, so again, I would tend to think Michigan's got the best defense in the country, but I just think it's so close. It's somewhat indistinguishable. But where was I headed after that? There was something I was responding to, and I got sidetracked by the defense there. There we go, Michael. How does Michigan match up with a high-octane offense like Washington? Well, I got to say that I thought that Texas would be more disruptive up front. I thought that their defensive front would cause more havoc than they did. Michigan's pass rush is going to cause Washington a lot more trouble. Michigan's got a better secondary than Texas. They've got better safeties. They certainly have better corners. They have arguably the best cornerback tandem in the country. That's another observation I had going into the game, and nothing changed, that I thought that these two teams, Bama and Michigan, had the 2 best cornerback tandems in the country. So we had that. And Michigan will need a pass rush to contain Michael Penix. And so he's going to get his numbers. They're going to get some points, but you cannot let him just sit back in the pocket and pick you apart. Will Johnson and Mike Sanders in particular. You also have, of course, Wallace, and you got the other Johnson. They're really good, and they will be able to hang with receivers longer than just about anybody else will. But the game is designed in such a way that good receivers beat great cornerbacks. Now, these are nearly great receivers. Washington's got one of the best rooms in the country against arguably the 2 best corners or the best cornerback tandem. I think that most likely we will look back on this game a week from now and we will credit Michigan's pass rush as winning this game. And I do believe that Michigan will be committed to the run, of course. And that is one mistake that Steve Sarkisian and Texas made Monday night was that they didn't stay committed to the run. If you look at the numbers, just watch the game. Texas was running the ball pretty much at will against Washington, and they stopped. Michigan won't stop. Michigan is going to force it down Washington's throats in the ground game. The more I think about this game, the more I think that Michigan could win this game decidedly. They're a 4.5-point favorite right now. And when I say decidedly, I mean by 2 or 3 touchdowns. All right, folks. We will do our best to do a few things here at the Voice of College Football before next Monday night. One would be to get together with Steve Dace. Steve Dace was out at the Rose Bowl having a great time. Got a number of texts from him during the game where he and his family were just yucking it up, having a great time. So that's good to see. Oh, there we go. Actually, just got a note from him 2 minutes ago. Yes, that would be phenomenal. Let's get right back to him and set it up. How about that? And then we will also put together some collaborations with the Michigan media that you've grown to know and love right here at the Voice of College Football. Whether that's we'll go after Tanner Wooten of Blue by 90, Nelson Hubble from Maize and Blue Review, Isaiah Hole. We will talk to him as well. So we'll get on as many Michigan contributors as possible. But also, we got our guy Lars Hansen with the Huskies Lockdown podcast. So I'd like to get those guys on together for them to mix it up on the matchups. But looks like Steve Dace and I are getting together Thursday, 4 p.m. Eastern Time live. So that'll be a good time. All right, folks. Anything else in the chat? I know this was a bit of an aberration from what we typically do with John here on the Michigan show. Just wanted to give you my overview. And again, please check out the commentary that I posted over on the main channel about Michigan's remarkable accomplishment. That's all I can say about it. So check that out. And again, keep those notifications on because we are going to attack this game as much as possible. Certainly from the Michigan perspective. But again, we lean on our guy, Lars Hansen from Lockdown Huskies, to provide the Washington perspective. And Lars has been joining us now for a couple months, and I'm sure glad that we were able to track him down because he has been a tremendous asset. And now Washington's going to the national championship game. So it is future Big Ten versus future Big Ten with Washington and Michigan. How about that? The last time we saw these two teams on the same field was in Ann Arbor in 2021. Michigan winning, I believe, 31-10 with Dylan Morris at quarterback for Washington, and that was the Jimmy Lake team. These two teams were supposed to play in 2020 as well. And they also, I believe, before that, I might be missing something. Somebody can pick me up on this one. They had the back-to-back games in the Rose Bowl in 1992 and 93. Washington won the first one 34-14, a game that wasn't quite that close. It was actually just a Washington domination, but that was the Washington team that won the national championship. Yes, 1991. 92 Rose Bowl. And then Michigan came back the next year, to Michigan's credit, with Ty Wheatley at running back and avenged that loss with Gary Moeller on the sidelines, winning that game, I believe, 38-31. Sounds right. Something like that. All right, everyone. Appreciate you being here. The voice of college football. Again, lock it in right here. We are going to have a ton of national championship game coverage. We also listen to you, of course. It works here at the voice of college football. Best discussion, debate, and analysis based on your participation. If you have any requests for us, please hit me up at MarkRogersTV at Gmail. We've got an SEC channel. We got a Big 12 channel. Those links are in the description section of the video. We would love if you would support us on all fronts. Keep in mind that even if you just enjoy the Michigan coverage, that it's all connected. So we need it to all succeed. And we appreciate the comment coming in here from Keith. Thank you so much for the super chat, Keith, who states here, watch Johnson's coverage. While Josh Wallace and Mike Sanders gave 10-yard cushions, Johnson was right on top of his guy. Johnson is elite. Well, he certainly is that. I knew that. I wouldn't have been able to comment on the level of cushion that those three quarterbacks give the opposing wide receivers. But Will Johnson, yes, is phenomenal. And I named Will Johnson and Mike Sanders as Big Ten Defensive Players of the Year, the voice of college football. So again, Keith, thank you so much for the contribution and the comment there. Coverage all week. We will deliver, and we always enjoy the conversation with you, and we will be back soon. We'll see you back here next Tuesday, God willing, at Michigan Wolverines Live, Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time to wrap up the national championship game. See you next week.